Hi guys, so some of you may have noticed the title of this series and possibly think that I've gone completely off my rocker. So let me tell you what the 12 months of Christmas is all about. Every year in our household we make gift baskets which we give to family, friends and neighbours at Christmas. And I think there's something truly wonderful about receiving homemade gifts. By their very nature they show somebody that they're worth your time and effort. So I'm going to share with you some of my makes and recipes, which by the end of the year will assemble into some of the most wonderful gift baskets, and also some goodies for you and your family too. We are going to be exploring many different crafts over the coming months, from mead making to beading, and of course some needle felting. You could choose to have a go at some of the items, or you can have a go at them all. It's entirely up to you. Some of the makes will require extra equipment, and everything will be listed out on the website. But this is a great way to get a jump on things, and it takes a lot of the stress out of what is a very busy time of year. Recipe sheets and downloads can be found on the Mums Makery website. That's mumsmakery.co.uk. And please do just take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, as we will be bringing you a new episode each month. So sit back and let's take a delicious and crafty journey together over the next 12 months. Hi guys, and welcome back to my kitchen for the next episode of the 12 months of Christmas. And what we're doing today is not particularly Christmassy at all, but it is something that I like to do to give in my gift baskets at the end of the year. During the summer months, it is the perfect time to be making your jams. Chutneys we make earlier in the year because they do need time to mature and, you know, get those sort of full flavours out of the ingredients. But with a jam, it's pretty much good to go. And so I'm going to be making just a basic strawberry jam recipe, but we're going to give it a little bit of a twist. Earlier in the year, we did make some vanilla extract, and although this one is over a year old now, you may find that your vanilla extract is suitable for use. Just, you know, siphon a little bit off ready and use it in your strawberry jam, and that little bit of vanilla really lifts that jam and takes it to a whole other level of taste. So for this recipe, you're going to need 2 kilograms of strawberries. We're going to use some of our lovely vanilla extract, probably about a tablespoon. A knob of butter, I'm going to use around 15 grams. And then your jam sugar. It's a good rule of thumb to use equal amounts of sugar to fruit. So 2 kilos of strawberries will be 2 kilos of sugar. I generally find that the jam sugar doesn't quite have enough pectin in it to set strawberry jam. So I'm going to be using some additional pectin, maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons. Tools that you're going to need: a good size pot. You're also going to need a thermometer, because the setting point of jam is usually around 105 degrees and you really do want to sort of get that temperature right up there. So a jam thermometer is a good idea. So first up, we're going to prep the strawberries. So I'm going to chop off the ends to discard the green, and then I give them a good rinse and leave them to drain. So my 2 kilos of strawberries have been prepped, washed and have drained. And how you now prep your strawberries, you could go a couple of ways. You have the hand crushing method, which I personally prefer because I do like nice chunks of strawberry in my jam. However, if you prefer a smoother jam, then pop your strawberries into a food processor and blend them up that way. If you're going to do it by hand, pop your strawberries into your pot and then add in your sugar. So that's 1 kilo of sugar. And there's the next kilo. I find that the sugar helps mush up the strawberries, but just get your hands in there. And again, if you've got children, they love doing this kind of stuff. And just start moving the strawberries around and crushing them with your hands. Now it does help if the strawberries are at room temperature. So if you've just gotten them out of the fridge, I'd leave them for a little while just to come up to room temperature. And also the more ripe the strawberries, the easier they are to squish as well. So my strawberries are actually still quite cold, and I gave them an initial hand sort of crushing, but it's not going as quickly as I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my hand blender. There we go. So that's, I do still like to have some chunks of strawberry in my jam, so I'm going to leave it there, but you can obviously blend it up as much as you like. So once you've got everything blended up as you need it, now's the time that we're going to add in our vanilla. And if you're adding in pectin, then now is also the time to do it. Pectin powder goes in before you heat up the jam. So I'm going to add in, this is a tablespoon, and I'm going to be really generous, and I'm going to go with 2 tablespoons of our delicious homemade vanilla extract. And then I'm going to go in with 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of the pectin powder. Now pectin is something that you can use with regular sugar. So if you don't have jam sugar and you just have granulated sugar, then the ratio is about 13 grams of pectin to 1 kilogram of granulated sugar. So I'm just going to mix. Look at the colour, is amazing. And that vanilla really does add something. Smells amazing. What I'll do now is I will get my induction, and then we will start bringing this jam up to temperature. So I have my hob, I have my jam ready to go. So we're going to bring this up to a nice rolling boil. So while this comes up to temperature, what you're also going to need are some jam jars, and you're going to need to sterilise them. And what I've done is I've recorded a little clip of how I sterilise my jam jars, and I'm going to insert that in the video now, and then we'll come back as soon as this is up to temperature. So with many of the sort of jams, chutneys and things like that, you're going to need to sterilise your jars. Now there are lots of different ways to sterilise. This is how I do it, and it has seen me good for the X number of years that I've been doing jams and chutneys. Obviously, if you've got a way that you do it, stick to what you know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to film this as sort of its own individual thing, and then simply insert it into the various other episodes which require sterilisation of jars and bottles and things. So what I start by doing is boiling my kettle, and obviously this is for jams and chutneys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sterilise the lids in a glass bowl in boiling water. Now these lids do have a tendency to float. So I'm just going to pour in enough water to cover those lids. And then I'm going to pop another bowl on the top. In fact, that just needs a little bit more. Just to keep them nice and submerged in that bowl. Now to sterilise the actual jars, what I do is first off wash them in hot soapy water, get them nice and clean, make sure there's no grease and stuff on them. And then rinse them off. You want to make sure that you rinse off any detergent or anything that are on the glass jars. Next, what I'm going to do is, once you've rinsed them off, just leave a little bit of water in the bottom, and it is only a tiny little bit of water. And the way that I sterilise my jars is using a microwave. So I'm going to put my jars in the microwave, and I'm going to microwave them for 2 minutes. Maybe a minute and a half. It depends how many jars you're doing. I'm doing 4 jars, and I tend to find that 2 minutes in the microwave on 800 watt is more than enough. Now, obviously, they're going to be very hot when they come out of that. If you're putting something in your jam jars that is hot, like a chutney or a jam that you've just freshly made, then you can absolutely have the jars hot when you put your contents in them. But if you're doing something like the Christmas mints where it's cold, you want to sterilise your jars and just leave them to cool down until they are at room temperature, and they're not going to cause any of the contents to actually start cooking by the temperature of the jar. So there we go. My jars are really hot and steamy in the microwave, so I'm just going to give them a minute, and then obviously I'm going to get them out using a towel or oven gloves. If you do have any excess water left in the jar, then just tip it out. But you can, those jars are very, very hot now, and they're nicely sterilised. Okay. So these are all really nice and hot. As I said before, if you're going to put something cold in them, then let them cool down at air temperature. And then if you're going to put something hot in, then you are pretty much good to go. That is how I sterilise my jars and my lids. The lids have been submerged in boiling water for a few minutes now, so they are absolutely good to go. Just get them out with the tongs, shake any excess water off, and you'll be able to use them for whatever you are putting in your jars. So my jam's now up to temperature, and you can probably see that there's quite a bit of foam on the top. You've got 2 options for that. You can, let me just get these out. You can skim off the foam like this and pop it in a separate bowl, or you can just stir the foam back in. If you stir the foam back in, your foam will be, or your jam will be slightly cloudier. Or you can skim it off. I'm going to skim it off, and you might notice now that the chunks of strawberry that were in my jam have now disappeared, and this was during the process of cooking the jam. My family reminded me that I had already made strawberry jam with chunks in it, and they wanted a smooth version. So I popped the stick blender back in and I blended out all of the lumps. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of the foam off of the top of this jam, and then we'll come back. I've got my jars already sterilised, and then we'll pop the jam into the jars. So we're now ready to pop the jam into the jars, and the smell in the kitchen is amazing. I mean, this is to me the smell of summer, that gorgeous strawberries and fused with the vanilla, and it is just blissful. So I've sterilised my jars. They are hot. My lids have sterilised in water. The jam is around the surface temperature of the sun at the moment, so be very, very careful. I am also going to use my jam funnel, and for those of you who don't know what a jam funnel is, it's a funnel that has a very, very wide base. I'll pop that on the overhead shot for just a second, and you can see this allows you to fill jars with jam and chutneys, things that have, maybe have chunks in, although this one is now a smooth jam. So all I'm going to do is use my ladle, and just one ladle at a time, and fill up the jar, like so. And there's our first jar of beautiful summer strawberry jam. One thing that I forgot to mention just now was, as you're popping your lids on, pop them on nice and tight, and then tip your jar a quick back and forth, and that searing hot jam just, you know, really kind of helps sterilize those lids as well. So, but make sure that you've got hold of it with a towel because it is really, really hot. So I've jarred everything up, and I am delighted to report that out of those 2 kilos of strawberries, we have got 13 jars of jam. That's a nice baker's dozen. So that's 12 for my baskets and 1 for me. The colour, there was also a little bit left over, and there generally is. So I always like to just pop that in a bowl, let it cool down, and pretty much have it straight away on some toast. But look at the colour. It's absolutely beautiful. A really, really nice colour on the jam. The consistency is lovely and smooth. And these now will keep pretty. I mean, I have had jam that has been in the cupboard for a good couple of years, and it has been absolutely fine. But it is entirely up to you. If you have sterilised properly and you have everything really, really hot, then this will pretty much last for a very long time. I will be putting these in my gift baskets at the end of the year. They just make a lovely, you don't traditionally associate strawberry jam with Christmas, but it is lovely to just have that little taste of summer during the cold and dark winter months. So these will make their way into my baskets. I do hope that you have enjoyed this little tutorial / episode on jam making. If you are making gift baskets, if you have your own jam recipes, do let me know. I always like to try new things. But for now, that's it for this episode of the 12 months of Christmas, and I will see you in the next show.